I'm Mike Duffy. My official title is School of Music, Music Technology, Media Lab, and Studio Specialist. It ends up being lots of technical things, all sorts of things like how do you do an opera when your people are scattered all across the world? Any number of things. So, but to that end, I also have some facility with uh, helping people out with their auditions, in whether they're already in school and applying to graduate school or doing their things, everything being online now, for the most part, presents a number of challenges. However, you should realize that uh, you probably have access to a fantastic video camera that you probably have already used. So your cell phone does a wonderful job. There are you can do fantastic video and acceptable audio just using your phone. The the biggest thing that you're going to want to start paying attention to as you get yourself set up, uh, don't just take your phone and stick it on the music stand and have it be so that you're looking at the ceiling and up, you know, the person who's watching the videos looking up your nose, or all of these things. You need to sit down and pay attention to what it is that you're recording. So you want to be recording yourself and your instrument and capturing a a good visual representation of you and your playing. So pay attention to the things that are in the frame as much as you can. Um, Experiment with how you orient yourself in the room that you're going to be in, right? So if there is light coming from the window, like for example, where Natalie's sitting in her kitchen, she has light coming from the window on the side there. That's very nice. If she were to change and have the window be directly behind her, that would be a little bit distracting because people's eyes are instantly drawn to the brightest part of the frame when it's put in front of them. So they're going to be paying attention to the things that are in the background rather than you and your fantastic playing. Um, so if you can, also make an effort to get the camera up to around the same height as your eyes, so that way, if you are there and you're performing, say you're playing the flute, and you want to have that camera here, even with your eyeballs, so that way it also is a fair representation of you as a person as well, not a strange, uncomfortable, distorted version of you. Um, and as much as you can, uh, pay attention to the things that are in the background. I'm here and with some drum things and whatever else that's in the background. Uh, I'm my my camera has some adjustable focus and things on it so that you probably can't really see what's happening back there, um, which is helpful. So with your phone, you may not have the ability to have selective focus like that, but you can control the way both the orientation. Most of the time for an audition video, you will want to record uh, horizontally, not vertically. Vertical video is great for TikTok and Instagram and all of these wonderful things, but for an audition video, I would strongly suggest that you do your video in the horizontal orientation. Now, the next bit is probably even more important. So you pay attention to the way that the video looks. That's great. More important is how it sounds. So as much as you can, pay attention. Sit in the room that you're going to be recording in. Sit quietly. Listen. What's going on in the room? What other things are you hearing? So if, for example, you're in say you're downstairs in the house where you are, like I am here. Up above me, when my wife or my son walks around in the dining room, it's very creaky. So if I were to be recording my audition video down here, I would say, "Oh, can you guys stay still for the next and not walk in the dining room so that because otherwise you'll hear creak, creak, creak." Nobody wants to listen to that, especially it will be distracting in your video. Uh, Also, distracting would be something like a fan or a refrigerator or a loud heater or something like that that turns on suddenly within the context of your audition video. That would be very distracting. Um, so just using the built-in audio on the telephone on an iPhone or Android, it's probably going to be okay. If you are interested and able, you can do things to improve the audio. There are some additional accessories out there, something like a microphone that plugs into the camera. So here, this is a Shure MV88, and that will plug into my phone in the lightning port, and then I can position the camera and the microphone in the same direction so that I know that now it will be pointed at me. If I were singing, that would be fine. And you with a microphone like this or a separate microphone, say something like an audio recorder that you might have already for recording your lessons or other things. You can also use this as an audio source and record the audio separately and put it together in uh, iMovie or Movie Maker, whatever you're using to trim the beginning and end of your audition video. Now, audition videos are not supposed to be edited. What that means, it means that it should be a single continuous take with no cuts in the middle. If you are using external audio, be very, very, very careful that you synchronize the audio with the video so that it doesn't look like you suddenly are just playing along to a fantastic recording that you downloaded off the internet for the repertoire that you're auditioning with. Be careful.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Um, yeah. If you're recording with your compute, you can record with your computer and your webcam also. In that case, the audio from your phone is generally better than the audio from your built-in laptop microphone. If you can, if that is the only equipment that you have that you're going to use to record, see if there's a way to turn off things like built-in noise reduction or something like that. You will run into problems where long notes in particular or sustained sounds that maybe get something that gets quiet, that stuff will get cut off by noise reduction because they'll hear it as, oh, that's an undesirable hum in the background. But no, it's beautiful, beautiful music that you're making. You might have something, it's very, very dark there, something like a USB microphone that would connect to your computer. You could use that as an external audio source and record your audio and video that way directly on the laptop. Also, not a bad idea. If you are going to use your laptop webcam, again, make sure that you get it up, put it up on a bookshelf or something so that aim to have the camera at the same height as your eyes. I know if you play tuba or double bass or a larger instrument, you're going to need to have a bit of extra space. Just make sure that your face, and any, your hands in particular, or your bow, all of those things that are creating the sound. Make sure that those are in the frame so that it's clear how it is that you're making the beautiful sound that you're making. All right. Well, I have I have nothing else to offer off the top of my head at the moment.
That's great. Thank you for bringing up having sort of your how you're making the music, having that in the frame, because every division that I've talked to has sort of different expectations in terms of seeing your technique, your physical technique. So if you're a trumpet player, you don't want to have the bell straight at the camera because you can't see what's going on here. Or if you're a piano player, um,
Make sure you see as many of the keys as possible,
right.
and how your elbows and your excellent posture.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
We've got a question from Kai Chen. Does anyone prefer to put your face in the camera while auditioning? So we definitely want to see your face on the take on your audition recording, um, and like we were saying, we also want to see your technique, your physical technique, and how that works. I know there's been some questions from brass students about microphone placement, because sometimes if the mic is too close to your instrument, that can be a distortion for some of the louder or lower instruments, from what I understand. So doing a couple of takes to make sure that you can see your face, you can see your instrument, that the microphone is where it should be, is always a good idea. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to pop them in the Q&A. Mike, are there any settings on on a cell phone to be turned off? You mentioned the noise
Well,
reduction.
on a phone, not so much. That's more of a challenge with the if you are using your phone and just the built-in camera app to record the video, that does do a little bit of volume adjustment, but for the most part, the video recording doesn't do as much noise reduction. So just make sure that you set it to a reasonable, 1080, 30 frames a second or something like that, whatever it is, a reasonable resolution and frame rate. Uh, that will be the primary thing to think about.
Great. Another question here in the Q&A. I will be doing a vocal audition with an accompanist. Would you like me to include the accompanist in the frame as well? And that is also a word I cannot pronounce. So
It's not necessary to have the accompanist in the camera in the frame of the video. Frequently, singers or other performers who are performing with an accompanist, especially right now, may be performing to a recorded accompaniment. So that in that case, if that is just playing back in the room and you're playing along with it, that's fine as well. So, right.
and also feel free to reach out to those faculty, like I was saying, to make sure that um, what you're expecting to present is what they want to receive.
Mhm.
All right, we got another question here. Not a technical question, but is there a time limit for the videos? Is a selection from a song preferable or acceptable? So that is a great question. Um, and it really does depend on the division. And you can find, I'm going to throw it in the chat here, but there is a link to the audition requirements by division. So they pretty much lay out what they want to hear in terms of movements or selections or score or scale studies, things of that nature. So there's no real time limit, but just know that you're trying to put your best foot forward in a way that will um, showcase exactly what the faculty are asking for. I hope that makes sense.
All right.
All right, one more question in the Q&A. As a vocalist, how much of our body should be in the video? Good question. And that, is pretty much it's up to you. But like we were saying, you do want to showcase your physicality. So evaluators will be looking at, your posture and things of that nature. Mike, do you have any?
Well, I think it'll be partly dictated by the where it is that you're recording yourself. If you're in a small room, you're gonna have a hard time doing a head to toe video. But yeah, I would say uh, wider than this shot. That's for sure. um, yeah, waist up certainly. Especially if you're standing, you're gonna, as I expect you would be for a singing audition. You would want to make sure that your waist up is probably as tight as you would want to be, wider if you can.
I've gotten some questions about the recording process and sort of how students should go about getting just the perfect take. And I'd like to know sort of your opinion on that. I've gotten some faculty opinions about, giving yourself some time, recording it, sending it to someone that you trust, and not really fretting over having a perfect video. Because like we're saying, we want you to showcase your authentic self, not the, audition that you would get on the 90th take, if that makes sense.
Yep. And you are going to be very close to the process. Um, doing multiple takes, say set aside an hour, sit down, record yourself for that whole time, set it aside, and come back to it later. You can evaluate it yourself or share what you feel are the good takes with your teacher or a trusted colleague, your bestie, or your overly critical older brother, maybe someone like that, who someone who would be honest with you. That's important. Don't just ask your mom which one. She'll just say, "Oh, all of these are wonderful. You sound so great." Maybe you do, but maybe don't. Mom will tell you. Oh, maybe.
And again, going back to that faculty connection, I know that some faculty will offer to either take a look at a sample of what you're doing, or you're sort of set up to make sure that you're set up for success, really.